coughs. I'm not dying today. You've got innocent coughs. Innocent coughs. You're not dying today either. Let's all cough together. You'll have one big mega cough. 'Cause we're coughing for the future, I guess. I don't know. I had a good start. I didn't know where that one was going.
It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulty.
Death to Corona!
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Checker here. Just waiting for Bird O' Prey is going to be calling in momentarily. There he is. Howdy, Bird.
Hey, just put in headphones.
No worries. All right, so all I've done is introduce myself. Of course, the incredible, the legendary, the disgusting Bird of Prey 5 is on the line with me, as always on these early morning calls or streams. So, Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2. First of all, calling it Part 2 was silly because it was actually Part 10, but whatever. And yes, Turbo, there will be spoilers, so please, if you don't want to know how the series ends, I would tune out right this very minute. Full-on spoiler warning. And so, yeah, drop out right now if you don't want to know, because there's already been a couple of spoilers in the chat. All right, so, Bird.
Yo.
What's your initial gut reaction to this episode?
Initial gut reaction was a lot of buildup with little payoff, but I thought it could have gone a lot worse. And my initial reaction score is a 5.
Okay. Here's the thing, and this is where I'm really torn on this one. I genuinely am, because I'm not sure where to put it as far as a score. In a very real sense, this is the absolute most Star Trek The Next Generation episode of the series. And in fact, it really, really reminded me of The Neutral Zone. I'm sure you remember that episode.
The first season episode?
Yeah, with the first appearance of the
appearance of the Romulans.
Yeah, in TNG. And in that, Next Gen was infamous by the end of it, of basically setting up for some huge confrontation that Picard would then talk his way out of. And so, in that respect, this entire season played out much like a an episode of TNG, in that we got all this build up to a standoff, and I will give them props. They did not go for the big pew 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 battle at the end, although they did have a little bit of that with the flowers.
Flowers and fighters.
Right. Although in fairness, the fighters were just holograms, even though I didn't like that.
No, there were some Romulan fighters.
I didn't notice the Romulan fighters.
There were some fighters before they went with the holograms or whatever the hell Girardi
I just saw
made.
the warbirds.
There were some little ships in there fighting the flowers too. I don't know. I could have sworn I saw some.
I'll go back and rewatch it, I'm sure. But, and so in that respect, it felt more consistent with Next Gen. However, at the same time, it was, there are some things that you just got to say, what? Like, why didn't the super synths, why did they just suddenly stop when they turned off the beacon? I mean, does that mean that the super synths are like, well, I guess they got blown up, so we're not going to wipe out all life in the universe? Because if the Romulans
I guess the hole closed, so they couldn't fit through.
But the super synths couldn't, open up their own hole?
I guess not.
And they got the tip through. Doesn't the tip count?
The tip's supposed to count, but I guess they withdrew it back rather than lose a tip.
Yeah, you see, and that to me felt like a real cheap shot.
Totally. I mean, I don't like that they played us, basically, that this was going to happen, that, there was going to be, and Jesus Christ, why did the Federation fleet warp in and warp out?
Yeah.
They left nobody behind. I've never seen a fleet just warp in and warp out so fast. Like, where were they going? Where did they have to be?
Well, they had to go to Starbucks, or actually, I think there was a big run on toilet paper.
We've only got 60 seconds to spare. Let's jump in and then jump out. We got to get home. Riker's got to make more bunny pizza.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
And the timing of it, there was no way Riker could have gone back into Starfleet and gotten there in the time that this is going on.
Thomas says the synths destroying everything would be better. I think what could have ultimately, what if they wanted to have an action ending, but also have it feel satisfying as far as the morality of the various characters. And thank you for the $1.99, Thomas. I do appreciate it. But if they wanted to do an action-y ending, but also keep the morality of the various characters in play, what I would have done is had Soji change her mind, but have it be too late, and then have the Federation, Romulan, Borg, and synths all work together to stop the super synths.
I agree, except I don't think the synths would have been in it.
Well, but they could have had more flowers, and
it was a lot of convenience.
Yeah,
Narek conveniently changing his allegiance. Soon, conveniently changing his allegiance.
You want to talk about convenience? Dr. Girardi fools the frickin' synths? So apparently she can control her biofunctions to the point where she can fool the lie-detecting synths?
Well, if there's a hypo spray that can make a whatever the hell reptiloid think that Rios wasn't lying, what he clearly was.
Well, the reptiloids in that episode are clearly idiots. It's just they depend on their sense of smell.
And yes, and they left the Doomsday transmitter over there.
Well, yeah,
shouldn't the first thing they have done would have been destroy the transmitter? Apparently, Soji banging her fist destroys the transmitter. and why does Riker let O just leave?
Right. And he's just like, oh, and by the way, did you notice Riker says, so Commodore or General or whatever you're calling? We never heard her called anything but Commodore.
Right, but on the Romulan ships, they were calling her General.
But how would Riker know
General
that?
On the Romulan ships, and how would Riker know that?
Yeah.
Since when is General a rank in the Romulan military?
Right, it should be Commander.
Yeah, or Centurion or something.
Well, Commander is the highest rank we've seen. Commander is the equivalent of a Rear Admiral.
So, And then why is Girardi still not facing any charges? I mean, she just
they're just going to warp off.
They were good. They were going to drop her off at Deep Space Nine to face her. Granted, the trial is probably just a technicality at this point, but shouldn't she still have to face a trial?
Right.
Or she just we got a happy ending, so laws be damned.
Well, and okay, so a few things that drug it down. Okay, so now Rafi and Seven are lesbian lovers. Like, that came out of left field. And
yeah.
And it's like when Rafi was sitting there talking to oh gosh, who was it? Elnor, yeah. When Rafi was talking to Elnor, I was seriously expecting her to say, "Oh, don't worry, Auntie Rafi will get you hooked up and pull out the space weed."
No, Rafi's clean for some reason, I think.
No, because she was drinking with Seven.
She's clean. She's okay. She can drink.
Right.
She's just gonna be recovered to that point.
And yes, Yeager, Rafi and Seven are now lesbian lovers.
Okay.
I'm not making that up.
All we saw was them holding hands in an intimate way.
Yes.
We don't actually know that they're lesbian lovers, but I think it's pretty clear that was the intent.
Right. And
I honestly thought Rios was going to try and
get in on
with Seven. And
that would have been better.
Girardi's going to jail. I'll try with Seven.
Yeah, I think Rios and Seven would make a better couple. They kind of, and that would make more sense. I also really had a problem with Seven's, I'm holding up air quotes right now, redemption.
No, you hate Seven.
No, I don't hate Seven, but here's the thing. So she and Rios are sitting there, and he's like, "Oh," and I mean, they basically should have just said, "So, Seven, what did you learn during the course of this show?"
Confess your sins, Seven.
Huh?
Confess, Seven. Confess your sins.
Yeah, and so Seven says, "Well, I'll never again kill just because I want to." Right.
Right. It'd be better than someone letting someone live.
Right.
It feels right.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. She just did it.
Well, that's why she was feeling bad about it.
Well, because of the second murder?
Because of the second murder.
Okay. But here's the thing.
Even though the second murder is far more
the second one
that second murder was self-defense.
Right. I really wouldn't have, if the second one was the only time, I would be okay with it. The first one was really the most egregious thing. But I don't believe for a second that Seven would just be like, you know what? Gosh, Picard's dead, so I'm not going to kill anybody anymore. Why would she?
Rear admiral is a little lower than an admiral.
It's like the lowest rank of admiral. Admiral is the naval equivalent of general, so a rear admiral is like a 1-star general. If I remember my naval ranks correctly. Mexican Iron Man puts $4.99 and says, "Are we now ready to deem this piece of crap the load of TV horse crap it is? I'm done being an optimist apologist for this perversion of Trek." Well, Mexican, I appreciate what you're saying. I still don't think the show was completely a disaster. The biggest problem, honestly, and tell me what you think of this, Bird. I think the single biggest problem. Oh, and Yeager, the Starfleet ships actually look good.
I really couldn't tell what the hell they look like. I didn't get a good view of any of those ships.
Were you watching it on your phone or something?
No, I was watching it on my TV.
You got a couple of good shots.
There was so many of them. It went so fast.
I think there were too many of them. But because I think that's one thing they do in these modern Trek shows way too much is let's like have a massive fleet all densely packed together. That makes no sense. But
could we not got one ship flyby? Just
that would have been nice. If like we saw Riker's ship in
La Serena
close up, yeah. Anyway, but here's the biggest problem I think with the episode and with the series. Is that this last episode felt like it was the last episode to a different series that we didn't see. Because Picard, once again, was sounding more like classic Picard. He was giving his, let's be optimistic, let's care about the human condition, self-sacrifice. He was giving all the right speeches at the right moments in this episode, and I really liked that, except that this wasn't the same Picard we had just watched for the last 9 episodes. This didn't feel like the evolution of a character. This felt like a completely different character. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he was different. This whole episode had a different tone than every other episode we watched.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we got our first Romulan F-bomb.
Yeah. Several F-bombs in this episode.
Were there? I thought there were just 2.
I would say at least 2. I don't know.
I think there was Romulan and Rios, right? But then Girardi said she didn't drop the F-bomb. She said, like, S. Like, she's tired of this shit.
And DJ, I would say Data's second death does not count as an on-screen death because all they did was pull out USB sticks.
Yeah.
Literal USB sticks, it looked like.
Right.
It had the USB head.
Now, as far as fan theories are concerned, it seems the only fan theory that was correct was Picard dies and gets transferred into a robot body.
Yeah, so the
which was pointless.
The so-called spoilers that had been out there, or leaks of that Rios was a hologram. Okay, that's obviously fake. Yeah, but I don't know if that was a leak. But there was literal leak of a page of a script.
Right.
That purported to be an actual page of the script, where it revealed Rios to be a hologram. I mean, yeah, people make theories, but that's one thing. But this was actually supposed to be a leak. It was that Rios was a hologram, that there was a transgender character,
right.
A couple other things that most of those did not pan out. That Commodore O was Elnor's grandmother. That also didn't pan out.
And, Piano Dean, I think he said, I just feel completely hollow after that. You know what? Which show, I can remember the episode title, but now I can't remember the episode, but Hollow Pursuits. You remember that episode?
Was that a DS9 episode?
I'm trying to remember. It's driving me crazy now. But that's what I would call this series. Is that the series had, it was hollow. It had some ideas, but it just...
That's a TNG episode. Okay. It's where...
oh, yeah, that was Barclay in the holodeck. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what we got here, is that this was a series that was trying to do something, but was ultimately hollow. And thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I got that. Barclay's first episode. Because I think they really wanted to build up to Picard's whole speech about compassion and...
What was that the human race is full of corruption and greed and stuff? It's like he's talking about today.
Well, here's the thing. That's going back to the nihilism of the writers. And that seems to me like those are lines written by Patrick Stewart because he wanted this whole thing to be about Trump and Brexit.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense in universe.
No, it doesn't. Because if the Federation was horrible and corrupt and everything, then Riker and his mega fleet would never have shown up.
Right.
And
which shouldn't have been able to happen.
Right.
And why is there a fleet of all the same vessel?
And Death by Rabies throws $3 and a fist bump. Thank you, Death by Rabies. I appreciate that, my friend. Fist bumps, one of the very few safe ways to communicate these days. So thank you. I truly appreciate that. And Marlena says, did we get mega fleets? Yes, we did, but we did not get the massive 5,000 ship battle that we got at the end of Discovery Season 2. Thank God. We did get an over-the-top battle of Romulans versus Flowers. But that's it. and we didn't get... I was kind of surprised. They did nothing with the Borg stuff.
Why didn't the goddamn Romulans just fire on the planet? They were just so close. On my order.
Yeah.
No, shoot!
You know what it really reminded... What it really reminded me of is Guardians of the Galaxy when they're trapped in that comm tower and they're like, okay, Group 1, fire! Psh! Okay, Group 2, fire! Okay, everybody get ready to fire! It's like they kept holding off like, oh wait, the script doesn't say we can attack yet.
And then when they're shooting at the hologram ships, they're shooting towards the planet.
Right. So
All
shouldn't the
those
planet have
disruptor
gotten
blasts
bombarded?
should have hit the planet anyway, as they went through the ships.
Yeah. And you know what? That could have caused. They could have had some interesting reaction shots from the ground when blasts are going off all around their little encampment and stuff. But no. And Dark Metamorphosis says, what about the fact that all the Romulan ships look identical? Well, that was the big problem, is that except for the flagship, all the Romulan ships look identical, and except for the La Sirena, all the Federation ships looked identical.
It's like they couldn't spend an extra $1 on a 3D model of any other ship.
Right.
They literally just make one Romulan ship and
two
copy
Romulan
and paste it, 100 times, 218 times.
Right.
And they make one Federation ship and they copy it 1,000 times or however many, it was in there.
Right. And Yosef puts in €2, thank you, my friend, and says, next season, Picard's fight space flu. I would not be surprised if there was some kind of pandemic in the Federation next season. That is how on the nose these writers are. And Captain Cat puts a couple of bucks in, says, hello, brother. How you doing, Captain Cat? Good to see you, my friend. So I'm really torn as to what to give this, because did they stick the landing? Well, parts of it, yes, parts of it, no. I think that Picard was on point better than any other episode in the series, but there were elements that, like, why kill Picard? What was even the point of it? If you're just going to bring him back in the next scene, why kill him?
Yeah, I mean, I had to do something with that body, I guess. So with that golem.
But that made no sense. What they should have. If you're gonna use the robot golem body or whatever, then get a different actor. Because it makes absolutely... And then their whole thing where, well, we figured we'd give you the same amount of years you would have normally. The man is 94 years old. What a waste of a robot body. He's going to get, what, 5 years out of that thing?
No. Humans live to 120. In that time, easy 120. Yeah. He said he was hoping for another 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, Dreamers out there says the Riker Bridge was redressed Disco. Actually, the Riker's Bridge was the redressed Enterprise Bridge from Discovery. If you look, you can see elements of it that were straight out of the Enterprise Bridge from the Discovery, particularly the chair Riker was sitting in. They didn't even try to redress the chair.
So I'm pissed that we don't know who the hell Captain Crandall was.
No, we never got an answer to Captain
that never ended. No answer there. That should have been linked. And Elnor doesn't get to see the goddamn cat.
Yeah, why didn't Elnor get to see a cat?
Elnor was so close to the cat. He was so close. But instead he's crying into Rafi's lap. Instead of, why didn't Girardi bring over a cat to make him feel better? Like, oh, here, Elnor, I know you always wanted to see a cat.
Yeah.
This will make you feel better. And
I also don't buy that Soon turned around so easily.
Because the script said to.
I know. That's the thing. That's what this episode suffered from more than anything else, was people did things because the script said to.
Yeah.
And Piano Dean says, just can't get into Michelle Hurd's acting. She's not absolutely horrible, but I just didn't like her acting through the entire show. Her acting...
Michelle Hurd.
Yeah, honestly, she didn't bother me that bad.
Which character is she?
Huh?
What
I think
character?
that's Soji, isn't it?
Is it Soji?
I think so. Let me double check. Rafi. Okay, Rafi. No, I don't. Well, here's the problem with her then. Is with Rafi, I think that Michelle Hurd's acting was fine, but the writing on her was so inconsistent. Is she a drunk or not? Is she a crack addict or not? Is she a crazy conspiracy theorist or not?
Well, she wasn't crazy because she was absolutely right.
Except that when she wasn't...
I'm surprised she wasn't reappointed back to Starfleet and given an admiralty.
Right. And yeah, I get it that we've had elderly people...
Yes, that pissed me off, Dreamer, out there.
Yeah.
Retconned.
I was just going to get to that, was when... I'm sure that was probably a screw up in the writer's room when what he really meant was to say when they came to Romulus, because that doesn't make any sense for them to say when we came to Vulcan.
Yeah, so but how do you let a mistake like that get to film?
Because none of these people give a crap about Star Trek continuity. None of these people are fans of Trek. That's the core of the problem here, is that even, and I'm sorry, people, I know that there are some people out there that still worship the altar of Gene Roddenberry, that worship the altar of Patrick Stewart, but these people are not fans of Trek.
Narek was left on the planet to keep effing the androids.
Yeah, well,
that's what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. The Borg cube is still sitting on the planet.
Yeah, it's prime real estate, oceanfront view.
Right, and guess what?
And Narissa was on the Borg cube the entire time.
Yeah, how did she get there?
She was beamed.
Yeah,
I know, but that's the thing.
She was beamed off the cube onto the Romulan
ship. But I said it. I said it in my review. I said it makes it seem like she beamed to a Romulan ship, but we didn't see her on the ship, so she could have beamed somewhere else.
That was the dumbest thing.
So in fact, instead of beaming to one of the many Borg Romulan ships that were taking off for the planet, she beamed to some other section of the cube and hid the entire time.
Right. Because they don't have sensors on the Borg cube.
Right. Sensors didn't detect her, I guess.
And by the way, I don't, and Dean just mentioned this, I don't buy for a second that 7 beats Narissa in hand-to-hand combat. Not for a second.
Seven's a little old to be able to beat.
Right, and I know people say...
It's not like she has enhanced Borg strength anymore.
Well, and even if she does, a Borg versus a Romulan would be... physical strength would probably be fairly evenly matched, but you've got a older human Borg versus a young Romulan.
Yeah, Romulan should have 2-3 times the strength of a human.
And you have a Romulan who is shown is a badass fighter on par with freaking Elnor.
Right. She's like a special ops Navy SEAL, hand-to-hand combat with 7 who, don't get me wrong, is an older person, but maybe they had some training, but not SEAL training.
So yeah, I didn't buy that for a second.
Or IDF training.
Huh?
Or Israeli Defense Force training, something like that.
Right. Jaeger's taking off. Have a good one, Jaeger. I appreciate you stopping by. Get better soon, my friend. The Force Magic Tool is not good. Yeah, the Force Magic Tool. What the hell was that? I mean...
Just imagine. Yay. Just imagine.
But here's the dumb thing. I mean, so
why not just imagine that you're closing the rupture in space and keeping the AIs away?
Right. If it just does, if it's the wish upon a star tool, and it's like, and then, oh, by the way, if you wish upon it enough, it'll make 150 holograms of your own ship.
Or Girardi's face.
Yeah. And it's like, and how did Girardi know how to use it? Was there a deleted scene where they spent like hours training her on the perfect use of this thing?
That's right. How did she even know about it?
Right. And it's so funny because you saw earlier in the episode where Rios and Rafi were sitting there fixing the ship systems back by the warp core, and then it just happens to be sitting on the supposed helm, even though there's not a helm because the pilot is always in the captain's chair. Which, by the way, how did Picard pilot the damn ship? Oh, let's see if I was watching carefully enough.
He was watching, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? If I'm sorry, go watch a pilot of a 747 for a few hours and then see how well you can pilot a 747.
I could probably pilot.
You could pilot Kurogan style, sure.
Well, you notice he didn't land. He only took off. Landing's always the hard part.
Now, Thomas, I think Alexander will absolutely... And have you seen Alexander lately? Because I
in fact, I messaged him the other day. Okay. I was hoping everything's okay with him. No, I haven't heard from him.
Yeah, I haven't seen him lately either. But Alexander, I think, is going to absolutely... he is going to ejaculate all over his computer or TV or whatever when he sees Seven and Rafi holding hands. That's what I think he will do. Jeff says the magic tool, I swear I've seen something like that before. You mean the sonic screwdriver? Yeah. Also, Girardi stole Sega's eye and no one noticed it. Right, well, that's the funny thing. She took the eye and then Soon was in the lab 2 feet away from the body and didn't freak out about it.
What happened in the lab when soon the TV came on and there was blood? What was that? Was that like Narek showed up and there was blood? Did Narek kill Soji's sister?
No, that's what he saw on the TV was that Narek grabbed Soji's sister and then Soji's other sister, Sutra or whatever her name is.
Sutra, yeah.
Sutra actually killed her.
Sutra. Oh,
so
Narek.
Narek,
How did he know?
because remember what he was trying to do was decrypt her memories.
Oh, okay.
So that was the last thing she ever saw.
The last thing she saw was okay. So I thought they were seeing a feed from outside.
No. That was the last thing that the dead one ever saw.
I understand. And that's okay. So that's what changed Soon's mind.
Right, but it just changed it instantly.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah.
And it's convenient he built this little stick to shut people off.
Yeah, that's really, you know, especially, since he's willing to let all organic life in the universe die, but then he finds out that one of his robots committed an act of murder, and so he changed his mind.
You're no better than us.
Yeah. And it's like, really? One murder? You're no better than us? One murder in the history of this planet. No, I'd say that's a pretty good track record.
There's only 30 of them or so. How many of them are there? Well,
I don't
90.
know, maybe a couple hundred.
However many they can fit on the La Selena.
Yeah. In the book Star Trek Avenger, there was a subplot about a plague that struck the food supply. It's a fun read. Well, I think that we're gonna get we'll get the Federation pandemic next season. No, the magic tool. I swear I've seen something like that on Star Trek before. Like that magic tool. And you know the funny thing is, it looks like brass knuckles. But yeah,
it's like brass knuckles with like something sticking out of it.
Right. And Ryan says, if you were an experienced 747 pilot for 50 years, you could definitely muddle through flying a 737 20 years later. Yeah, but this is, first of all, Picard, you're talking about a leap in technology because the interface for everything we see on Picard is totally different than what we saw on TNG. This isn't a 747 pilot flying a 737 20 years later. This is someone who plied a Cessna, then getting into a modern stealth fighter.
So did you see Dreamer Out There's super chat about Narek said they came to Vulcan, not evolved?
Yeah,
I know
we
we mentioned it. I know we. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Dreamers Out There.
I didn't know
with the super chat. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. I apologize, Dreamers. But yeah, thank you. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense that they would say that. I think that was just one more example of how the writers, the producers, nobody here is really Star Trek fans. They just are throwing Trek terminology in and saying that's gonna call it a day, you know. And Indy Tiger puts $5 in. Does they show them drilling out Ichib's eye and cut it off? But that's too much to show Girardi digging out the eye. Yeah. But that's because, and I do kind of believe that they were sending Manu a message. I think they were that was a big F you to Manu.
Didn't she take the eye that was already damaged? I'm trying to remember which one. Girardi took the right eye. Isn't that the one that the left eye of the person?
Well, remember, she got stabbed in the left eye.
Right, and it looked like Girardi took the left eye.
That wouldn't make any sense, though, because the left eye was destroyed.
I know, but that's just what I'm saying. Maybe I just saw it wrong.
And Piano Dean says, the more I think about it, the more disappointed I get. I'm really bummed. I'll give it another watch tomorrow, but right now, 2 out of 10. Honestly, I don't know. I'm leaning at about... I'm really, really torn, because there were some things they just did so right, but some things they just did so wrong. But then that's been the story of this series. Phantom Menace says the super robots will probably at some point anyway, right, like the Borg, right? Will probably at some point anyway, right, like the Borg, right? Also, what was the end? Where did the Federation fleet come from out of literal nowhere? Well, the Federation fleet was at D Space 12 enjoying cappuccinos. And then
apparently they had to get back there.
Right. And apparently they got the message from Picard, even though all the signals were jammed.
And they don't leave even one starship behind to protect the planet.
No, they don't need to.
The Romulans could be like, oh, they walked away. Let's go back and destroy the planet.
How would a huge orchid survive in space? Well, you see, quantum. So to kill an android, you stab it in the eye. That is true. That's where you see, in the newer Soon models, what most people don't realize is the off switch is right behind the left eye. And Phantom Menace says the super robots will come at some point. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to say, like the Borg. I don't know. You see, that's the thing, is that the super robot thing looked very much like the future control tentacle from Discovery Season 2. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I think they're gonna.
I think that
might be the Discovery big bad or something.
Right. Piano Dean says, I'm going to watch the Ready Room, but I swear if Will Wheaton ejaculates over the support writing, I'm going to throw something at the TV. Don't break your TV, Piano Dean. You can't afford to replace it right now. But I understand, and that's why I don't watch the Ready Room. I don't want to hear people talk about what an artistic masterpiece this show was.
Yes, Tyrannicus, I had a heart attack too when we saw Michael Burnham.
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
I was like, no!
When somebody asked me at the end of my live stream last night was, what's the best and worst that could happen? And I said, the worst that could happen is Michael Burnham shows up. And then the first thing we see is Michael Burnham, and I was like, oh my God, they are not. And then I realized it was an ad for Discovery Season 3, so I was like, oh.
And they can't even give us a date on it. Just soon.
Yeah, well, I'm fine.
Maybe now's the time you're supposed to tell us when, you know? One series just ended. Do you want me to cancel my subscription or not? Because
my understanding is that post-processing for Discovery Season 3 got delayed because of the COVID-19. And although that's bullshit, I'm sorry, that is just complete and utter bullshit. Every time these companies are using COVID-19 as an excuse, that's just a word for bullshit. And I'm done with this crap.
Honestly, they should be speeding it up because they're never going to get better views than now while everybody's
exactly.
home.
This is the time you want to ramp up production if you're a streaming service. And especially if all the shooting is in the can, and guess what? Your visual effects artists can do this shit from home. You know? And here's, like, I'll tell you, I was getting... did you watch that video that Google put out about YouTube's problems with the COVID-19?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I seriously wanted to pick up my monitor and throw it across the room when this guy was saying, well, I even wondered, why is it that we don't just have everybody work from home? But then they explained that they have sensitive information. They're freaking YouTube videos.
Right. Nothing I put on YouTube is sensitive.
Right. It is all YouTube videos. If it's going to go up on a public website for public viewing, it's not classified information.
And even if I have a private video, I expect YouTube is able to see it.
Yes. But you see, that's just one more excuse from these large corporations. And I'm sorry, I'm generally, you guys know, I'm a libertarian at heart. I believe in corporate freedom. I believe in capitalism. But these are these large corporations basically trying to hunker down and cut costs by not producing stuff when they can use COVID-19 as an excuse and get government funding to make up for their losses. Which is exactly what's going to happen here. Trump just signed the stupid bill. By the way, did you see my little rant about Trump?
No.
Oh, well, you should check it out. It was on my stream last night. You'll be happy I actually defended Trump. Jeff says, I think that flying a huge starship, even 70 years in the past, would be harder than flying a little ship with advanced computer-aided systems. Actually, I will tell you that, no. Flying smaller, more maneuverable craft is actually more difficult than large, slow-moving craft. It's just that with large, slow-moving craft, if you don't know what you're doing, you see your doom coming from a distance.
And yeah, Girardi mentioned the Picard maneuver.
Oh my God. Well, I'll give them some credit. At least he said, no, that wasn't the Enterprise. It was the Stargazer. It was a long time ago, and that wouldn't work here. But then that ended up being their solution.
The Girardi maneuver. It's the Girardi maneuver. I coined it. I coined a phrase.
Maybe they pulled a Cisco and didn't leave a ship behind because someone's kid is in danger, and they took all the ships to save the kid. That must be it. DJ says Trump hasn't signed anything. Oh, I thought he did, so I guess not. So we're still waiting for the House.
God damn it. I got my hopes up. I was getting my free money as a trigger.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, your economy doomsday money. Yeah. If you don't want your check, send it to me. Thomas, I'm not saying, like, here's the thing. If the government sends me whatever they're going to send everybody, I'm not saying I'm not going to take it, but I am saying that it's detrimental to the economy as a whole. If the government's going to just fork out $2 trillion, guess what that does to the economy? The economy has to stabilize with that $2 trillion influx, and that means that the dollar becomes, much lower in value. And if all the governments do this at the same time, then all global currencies are going to fall apart. And
but if all governments do it at the same time, then everybody's value gets lowered at the same time, and it's kind of a wash.
Well, actually, no, because you end up with hyperinflation. Because you still have it's true that like the dollar versus the euro versus the yen versus the ruble and all that will all drop simultaneously, so maybe like exchange rates will be a wash, but the price of goods and services will astronomically increase because of all that influxed cash, and so you're going to have like a loaf of bread for $50. That's the real danger of these giant infusions of cash, is hyperinflation. Oh, and I lost Bird. I'm assuming he's going to call back in a moment. There he is. You hit the wrong button?
Son of a bitch.
What'd you do?
I meant to hit mute, and I hit end call.
Thomas says you could get another printer. You know what? Depending on how much they give me, I might. Because I told you guys I want to get a resin printer, and if they give enough to get the resin printer before hyperinflation kicks in, I might do that. CBS totally trolled Red Letter Media by not showing the big battle and the Borg cube grounded in the speech instead of the STD battle. I don't think that it was a troll against Red Letter Media. I think that was the intent. But I also think that ruins... I mean, what was the point of even having the Borg in this series?
They wanted a Borg cube. They wanted a Borg cube.
Like, we got that beautiful shot of the Borg cube coming out of the transwarp conduit. We got, the Borg cube was... I mean, I was waiting for the Borg cube to get involved in the fight, and it never happened. And so, yeah, that
would have been too expensive.
Yeah, right. Why leave the Borg cube there then? They left the XPs on the planet. That cube is full of their super advanced tech that everyone would want. That cube could make Romulans a superpower again. I know! It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they left it unprotected.
Right. And by the way, under repair, they do have drones flying around the cube fixing things.
And Dr. Soong, I guess he's still there.
Yeah.
He's like, I like when Picard tells Data, I don't much care for him. And it's like, yeah, the Soongs are an acquired taste.
Now, Thomas, I know you said this right at the beginning of the stream. He said his score was, before Picard's death, a 7 out of 10, then it becomes a 1 out of 10. I don't know. Here's the thing, because a lot of the stuff that me and Bert have been ranting about is before Picard's death. Picard's death was just stupid.
Yeah, I didn't for a second believe he really died because I knew the body was there.
Right.
And I saw that come, especially when the fact it was still 20 minutes to go with his death.
Right.
I was like, okay, so they're going to beam him down. And then they beamed him down. They're like, okay, well, they're going to transfer him to the body. And then once Data's like, this is a quantum simulation, I was like, okay, they're transferring his memories over to the body. There's no surprise.
Which again is, and I know it's my word for this series, but again, it kind of focuses in on the nihilism. Life means nothing. This robot Picard is not Picard. It's just a copy of his memories.
Valor, if I might ask, what are you saying that Tim Pool covered? Did Tim Pool mention Star Trek?
I know. Maybe he's talking about the Nancy Pelosi killing the bill.
Well, everybody covered that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know because I was asleep. The amount you get depends on how much your income is. Yeah, which is also BS. I'm sorry. Unless it's inversely proportionate. Because I'm sorry, but someone who makes $500,000 a year as of last year doesn't need a larger stimulus than someone that made $20,000.
Well, it is inversely proportionate,
Good.
but it means it fades out at about 99,000. If you made over 99,000, you get nothing.
Ah,
If you made 75, you start getting less at 75.
but if people haven't filed their taxes yet, how are they going to know?
It's last I heard, it was actually based on 2018's taxes, which
Okay.
makes no sense to me because
Yeah, what if somebody had a great year or a bad year afterwards?
right. I mean, and if you're unemployed now, what does it matter what you did in 2018?
Right,
Now that was the previous version, so I don't know if it changed.
right.
So I don't have the details on it, but yeah, when the first time they were going to base it on 2018 taxes. If you haven't filed yet, it's based on 2018. Okay, says Piano Dean.
What if you didn't file in 2018?
Then it's based on 2019. I would say, but the poorest people don't file taxes at all because they don't pay anything. So I'm honestly curious about that.
Yeah. Ensign Ricky thinks Soon will take advantage of the leftover board cube. No, I don't think we're going to see Soon every again, or the XBs or the synths, because 7 of 9 is busy, banging Rafi now on the Lost Arena. She doesn't give a crap about the XBs because Hugh's dead. Notice the 7 was perfectly fine to abandon the XBs.
Yeah, I mean, and why? I mean, because she's not going to become part of the show. It's too expensive to have both 7 and Picard on season 2.
Right.
They should have just left her with the Borg and say, okay, I've got my work cut out here. And
well, I'm
let
sure
her-
in episode 1 of Picard season 2, they'll have like some lines saying, "Wow, Rafi, you and 7 broke up." Yeah, we dropped her off Risa last week. Yeah. None of the other synths had this issue with Soon turning off Sutra. Are they not real if they can't be switched off? Well, that's another thing. Yeah, why didn't the synths freak out when Soon just turned off Sutra?
Yeah, they should have all been like, oh shit,
Excuse me.
he needs to die.
Phantom says it seems like the super robots would come, especially if the portal beacon thing was stopped, destroyed, maybe faster if they're going. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Is that so their great system is that, hey, send us a signal and we'll come, but if the signal is cut off, we'll stop.
And why is this super 200,000 plus evolved AI a physical manifestation of a giant space octopus?
Right.
Is that the best they could do in 200,000 plus years of evolution? That a space octopus or just tentacles, that's the ultimate form of evolution?
Yeah, well, that's the Japanese were right all along.
Do you say all wrong?
All along. The Japanese and tentacle porn.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
You don't know what tentacle porn is.
Nope.
Are you serious? You are lying.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
The Japanese have a form of pornography called tentacle. Well, it's called hentai, but it's basically monsters having sex with women. And tentacles are very prominent in that.
I thought hentai was just a form of like anime that involved characters of a young age.
No, look some up.
I'm not going to.
You
but
probably
thank
enjoy it.
I don't think I would.
I know it's a lot like the mines. Anyway, you should see an epic fight between Bird and Vile Mike on my stream earlier. Oh, really? Were you and Vile Mike going at it?
Yeah, we were going at it.
What for?
The possible drugs to help COVID-19.
What, like the
malaria drug.
Has there been any news on that?
Well, I mean, what I read is that the FDA's commissioned a study. They're studying it in New York. They're studying it in some other places. And Vile Mike insisted that there's no evidence, that it takes at least 2 years to do a study. And until that there's a study done, he won't believe anything. So I said, so you're going to wait 2 years to find out if it works? He's like, yes. And he couldn't answer the question. And then when he did answer, he basically said he would rather die than take the drug because they don't know how it works.
Well, here's the thing, is that if, and I've said this before, but if the malaria drug actually worked in a clinical study, then I would say mass distribute it immediately, because we already know the side effects and everything. The malaria drug's already been approved by the FDA.
Well, that was my
Right.
yeah, but he's a virologist apparently. I did not know, and he's very sensitive. He said something like that.
No,
yeah.
Not. He's a distributor.
Well, he said he had some training in this, and he's much more skeptical than I am, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
I think we just agreed to disagree at the end.
Right. So Mercer puts in $2, says directing was bad, but ending was interesting. I don't think it was the directing what was the problem. I think that the writing was inconsistent.
And no, Stefan, Dr. Crusher was never mentioned.
Yeah. That's another one of those fan theories where everybody, like, I know Doomcock and a bunch of others were going off about how Dr. Crusher was killed off screen. Nope.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think she probably was in the original version where Geordi was killed in the comic, but that got replaced when they realized we needed these people.
Right. Fandom says, did they actually abandon the XPs, or did they leave a few days later when the Federation comes at taking over everything? We don't know, do we? Well,
why would the Federation come back?
Yeah, the Federation left immediately after the battle, and then Picard left with 7. So yes, she abandoned the XBs. When Picard and Data were talking, I thought of when Harry Potter died and talked to Dumbledore. Well, thanks for the spoiler. I've never seen Deathly Hallows, so don't know. Valor says, I wonder if the Iconians will show up. They took many... No, people get... I don't understand. What is this obsession with the Iconians? Do you know? I don't get it. Fans...
Well, we know the Iconians were a very powerful ancient race, So
were the Preservers. So what?
Yeah, but the Iconians sound cooler. They're Iconians. Who do you want to meet? An Iconian or a Preserver?
Preserver.
Freaking a Preserver is something you find on a boat.
Wow. I don't understand what the obsession with Iconians is, other than the fact that they pushed them on Star Trek Online. But, if you're a fan of Star Trek Online, well, then you should like Picard. Bird of Prey and Anterior Hentai is just what anime porn is called, not limited to youngins. Also, the tentacle monster thing is a way to get around religious censorship regarding porn in Japan. So there you go.
Well, I do know Japanese porn, they blur out the naughty bits. So I guess that's probably why.
Yeah. Well, so you should watch some hentai.
I'll pass. Thank you.
I'm sure you would like it.
I don't think I would.
I understand there's like a hentai called, the Orphans in the Mines.
Yeah, cartoon doesn't do anything for me.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. You sound like you're lying.
I'm pretty sure the cartoons don't do nothing for me in that respect.
Mercer puts $2 in, says, love your show. Hang in there, Michael and Auntie. Thank you so much, Mercer. I do appreciate it. Auntie's downstairs sleeping right now, but
Auntie.
Yeah, I wish Picard would have been better. I really do. It's not.
It's depressing.
Yeah,
it's a little depressing.
It is.
Now that it's over, I'm depressed that we didn't get to see the battle. We didn't get to see. I know you didn't want a battle, but I wanted something. Everything just resolved so easily. Instead, we got a drawn-out 25-minute Picard death, not really dead scene.
Well, the death, not really dead scene was completely pointless.
And we got basically Data's death instead of Picard's.
Right.
That we didn't know was alive.
And you know what would have been a better ending, quite frankly, since Versailles says that want Q to show up, is what I was really hoping for, and I thought for a split second they were going to do it, but when you see Picard in that room talking to Data, so Picard starts out in the room by himself, and I wanted to see him in the room looking around and then have Q sit down in the chair and say something like, welcome to the afterlife, Picard. We meet again.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened the last time Picard was killed.
He could have just said, no, he's like, well, this isn't really the afterlife anyway, and I'm just here for a minute. I'll be gone. You've got company coming, but I will see you again.
Cinnabon says, Bird is pretty sure the cartoons don't do nothing for him equals raging boner confirmed. Well, okay. No, you're probably right, Cinnabon. Phantom Menace says, wouldn't the Federation want to claim the planet or killed or shut down the synths because they are illegal? And for that matter, isn't Picard illegal technically? Yeah.
Oh,
Picard...
but they lifted the ban. They just lifted the ban.
No, they didn't lift the ban.
No, they said at the end they lifted the ban.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they specifically said, and Soji says, and now I'm free to travel because they lifted the ban.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch it.
And Picard said, and so am I.
Well, hold on just a second.
Oh, no, actually, Picard said, me too.
Mercer puts $2 in, says, I liked it. I mean, I'm 46. It don't matter too much. I'm not sure what you mean. I
think he means he likes the virus.
Likes the virus. No,
He's
I think he meant the show.
46 years old. It doesn't matter too much to him.
Yeah. Death Dealer says, what I missed? Well, we're complaining about this last episode. So, here's the funny thing about this whole thing. So, the resolution to the initial problem, which was... keep in mind, the initial problem was that Mars was destroyed while the Federation was trying to build a rescue fleet. The resolution is synths are legal again. Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, was there a vote? When did this happen?
Right. But not only that, but it's like
Riker just declared it.
So the synths are like, oh, okay, so we're not illegal anymore? Okay, we'll be friends. I'm sorry, I don't buy all the massive shifts in attitudes in this episode. That's the biggest problem, is that everybody, except for Picard, everybody had a massive personality shift in this. Seven all of a sudden regrets killing. Soji all of a sudden wants to save humanity. Soon all of a sudden doesn't want to wipe out all organics. Everybody, and Narek, of course, now he just wants the preservation of life, right? All this stuff. Everybody just makes these massive changes in personality just so that they could have a nice, clean resolution.
And me says, so me not being me, but me, says, so Bird of Prey bitches about thousands of mini spaceships, then bitches about a TNG speech.
Yeah, that's Bird for you.
Did I? And then he also says, make up your mind, Bird. Do you like STD or TNG? Well, I to be honest, I definitely don't like STD. I like TNG, but Picard was not TNG. And I expected this episode to be Star Trek Picard, not TNG. A TNG ending to a Picard story doesn't make a hell. It's a lot like a TNG ending to Enterprise.
Right.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
They did that too.
I know.
But yeah, they actually, and that is like, I think that the TNG, up until this newer generation of Trek, I think TNG was the weakest formula in Trek, where they would, in TNG over and over and over, they would build up, and then avoid a fight. And that's kind of what they did here. But the problem is that it just kind of felt like a cheap shot. Where, oh, well, we don't have the budget for it. It didn't feel like they didn't fight because of story reasons. They didn't fight because they didn't have the budget to make the fight.
Mercer says he means he liked the episode. He's just not being too picky.
Gotcha.
Understood. And I think Mamo Prey felt the same way.
Did she like it?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
DJ said, anti-trigger, how can the Federation just claim a planet? Isn't it against the Prime Directive? Well, that's what they conveniently had Picard's formal request for the planet to be represented by the Federation, yes. And I guess was time-stamped. So, yeah. So General O or Admiral O, whatever.
Here's what we've learned about the Romulans in Picard, is that the Romulans will always follow the law.
Sticklers for following the rules.
Yes. So
like, oh, it's in the treaty. It's page section 2, paragraph 15. You got me. I can't kill you.
Right. They don't just have the episode count anymore to tell or set up a decent story. They just don't have the episode count to set up a decent... You're right, Ensign Ricky. They needed more episodes than this. And the problem is, and this is something that Ronald D. Moore really understood in Battlestar Galactica, you don't have to have a big epic fight all the time, but when you do, it should mean something. The fight between the warbirds and the flowers had no meaning to it. Somehow they managed to make the Borg even less threatening than in Voyager. Yeah, they did! Synths can be slave labor. Hooray, progress. Exactly. So now they can bring back the slaves for season 2.
I'm waiting for the holograms to fight the synths.
Yeah. What about 7 of 9 and Rafi at the ending holding hands? When did they fall in love? When was there a connection? Oh, yeah, you missed it. You see, since they're both tough women, they have to be lesbians. Because why the hell not?
Girardi got Rio, so
yeah. Even
no
though
one wanted
Rafi,
Eleanor.
Here's the thing. Rafi has a son, and 7 had a thing with Chakotay, right? But no, they're lesbians.
Chakotay turned 7 into a lesbian.
So he must be as bad as you. So what happened when the Romulan fleet, and what about Commander O, and how did she have time to run a war fleet and run Starfleet security? She must have taken vacation time. Well, yeah. So we never get an explanation of how Commodore O suddenly transferred to command the Romulan fleet. That's never explained, never addressed in any way, shape, or form. Although Riker apparently knew about it all along, because not only did he know she was there, but he knew what her Romulan rank was. And then she basically was one of the most ineffectual commanders in history because she kept forgetting to say fire.
I was seriously worried that Picard was going to kiss Data. I was worried at the end. After they said, "I love you," I thought Picard was going to come back and kiss him before he walked out the door.
they like wake up his body and he's sitting there dry humping. Oh yeah, Data. Isn't 7 of 9 married to Chakotay, or did they forget? No, yeah, they conveniently forgot that both 7 of 9 and Rafi showed that they were heterosexual.
I don't think they were ever married.
Right, but
and I will give it that 7 really is not experienced in that way, and she was still trying to figure out her sexuality in Voyager. So it's possible she's not, she's polyamorous or whatever the hell the term is.
But they're doing it just to do it. That's the thing.
I know they're doing it just to do it, but it's just there's things I would fight and argue about, and Rafi and 7's sexuality is just not one of the top 10 things that I have a problem with.
But here's the thing, and Mercer puts another $2 says it's a eulogy for Data, closure for TNG longtime fans. I like that aspect of it. I was okay with Data's death in this. I know you thought it was stupid, but I didn't have a problem with Data's death. I don't have a problem with
Data's death. The problem was that Data wasn't supposed to be alive to begin with.
Well, true. But I did have a problem with Picard's death. And I have a problem with all the magic character transformations. And yes, I think the lesbian thing is actually perfectly symptomatic of this. It's like, wait a minute, when the hell did 7 and Rafi have time to become lesbians and fall in love? And why is that important to the story in any way, shape, or form?
Okay, and I'm being told that in the future, Janeway, 7 and Chakotay were married.
Yes.
But that was a possible
That was an alternate
future.
timeline.
Right, I mean, in one timeline, Picard married Beverly, but he didn't for some reason.
Right, but here's the cheapening thing of it, and this is where I don't understand why the LGBTX7372 community celebrates crap like this, because they should be insulted by it. And I'm being totally honest about this, is that every single time we get this kind of crap where 7 and Rafi, they throw this token moment in where they're lesbians, but both of them were heterosexual in the past. And so it's like, oh, your sexuality is just something you switch on and off, or, you know, flip to a different brand because you're tired of brand X, so you try brand Y. And that's not how sexuality works.
Ryan says, I can't wait to see how Picard and Data die next season. And Species says they're lesbians based on what?
Because they are.
Well, because there was a brief moment where the camera showed them holding hands.
They're holding hands
and looking into
drinking
each other's eyes.
They're holding hands, gazing into each other's eyes, and drinking.
I mean, yeah, it's not for certain, but I don't know any two heterosexual women that hold hands and stare into each other's eyes.
Yeah. And, by the way, abandon all their friends for. Why not? Riker did look much better in the uniform than making pizza. I agree. Riker was like one of the shining lights of this episode. I liked Riker's all too brief part. This should have been the Riker series.
I'm a little upset that they've now confirmed some other starship as the flagship.
Well, not only that, but Riker's only a captain? Why is Riker not an admiral?
Well, if he got out of Starfleet right after they had their kids, he left Starfleet as a captain. He's not going to get promoted on reserve.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't buy it. Ion says 7 of 9 says, I am 7 of 9. Resistance is futile to Rafi, and then Rafi says, okay. Yeah.
I did like Narek saying, I very much choose to live, my friend.
I like that too. That was a nice moment. And by the way, now Narek says he was the washed out Zat Vash, so they're not all female?
Well, no, you see, Michael Chabon mentioned this in a interview, or Alex Kurtzman. Somebody said it in an interview on the Ready Room, is that the Zat Vash don't have to be female. It's just in practice, almost all of them are.
That's
because without saying, because obviously women are stronger than men.
Right. So that's what it is. They just wanted to show women are better than men.
Well, I guess for this one line, they had to prove that a man could be Zat Vash. It's just that they're not.
And no, there's no USS Enterprise in this, which I'm fine with. But you know, I mean, I know some people are disappointed by that. Like, why wouldn't the Federation flagship be the Enterprise? But why would it always be the same ship?
Because it's Star Trek.
Well, not anymore. So what's Commander it's Commodore, but going to do now if she can't go to Starfleet? And I bet the Romulans probably would not be happy, or at least her secret society. Who knows?
Zat Vash is going to get disassembled now because they see that the synths made the right choice. They were wrong to fear them the entire time.
Yeah. DJ says Riker heard Kirk's words, never let them promote you. Yes. He was smarter than Picard. It's more about taking characters away from the heterosexuals and rubbing in their faces than just making original LGBT. Yeah, exactly. But it's stupid. Because it's doing, it's just like with the Sulu thing in Star Trek Beyond, right? And even George Takei didn't like that. Because, number one, Sulu isn't gay, George Takei is, right? Number two is that if you're saying that in the Prime timeline, Sulu is clearly heterosexual, and in the Kelvin timeline, Sulu is gay, so now you're saying that you're not born gay, that you just pick what you want to do this week. And it's all a matter of circumstance. That's really what the Kelvin timeline is doing to sexuality. Was
Sulu born before the ship came through, before the timelines diverged?
I don't know. As far as I don't know how old Sulu is compared to Kirk, and whether that would make any difference.
Well, because if he was born after the divergence, then a butterfly flapping its wings is what turned Sulu gay.
Only if it was close enough in relation to Kirk and everything to where it would be an impact. Like, you would have to show that Sulu's genetic makeup was somehow different because of the divergence.
But once there's a divergence, then you could possibly see.
No,
I mean,
not if, like, for example, Kirk, the initial divergence is Nero coming through that black hole, right? If 2 days later on Earth, Sulu was born, that would have zero impact because Sulu's mother was already just 2 days away from giving birth. His genetic makeup would not have changed at all.
But you're forgetting about tachyons.
No, I'm not, because that's bullshit. It was another USS. What was it called? I don't remember. Like the
Zhang He
Quinta,
or something.
You know,
Thought it was Japanese.
Yeah. Did Picard die? Yes. And then he came back 2 minutes later. I mean, they didn't even take as much time as they did with the Tribble Blood.
Well, they didn't have that amount of time. It's a 54-minute episode.
Is it just me or is the ending disconnected? Shouldn't a season 1 ending lead on to season 2? Yeah, it really did. I mean, it just felt like this.
I gotta say, I don't think they were sure they were getting a season 2.
Right.
And I think it's probably
I'd be happy
wise.
if they didn't.
I think it is probably wise because with somebody Patrick Stewart's age,
right,
you're never 100% sure.
Well, that's why I think they should. You know what? I honestly thought they were going to do, and I thought it would have been a little bit on the clever side, but they didn't. Was that to put Picard's mind into a different actor's body, so the robot Gollum would be a different looking, it would be a new actor playing Picard, and then you could have in season 2 this internal monologue where we see Picard in that room. So that way, if Patrick Stewart dies, no problem. You just stop those scenes.
I would not. I mean, listen, I'm going to watch, but if I'm a real Star Trek TNG fan, I'm a Patrick Stewart fan. I don't want some other actor playing Patrick Stewart.
Well,
playing Picard.
Patrick Stewart's not going to be around too much longer, so
that's what makes this special.
Yeah, that's what makes this suck. So does the ending imply season 2 is just going to be a non-arc episode series with a ragtag group of people exploring? Like, where does it go from here? I don't know. That's the thing. There is no setup for season 2, which I was disappointed by.
Rambling loves it.
Rambling Canuck liked it?
They just said, I loved it. Damn, it was great.
Well, Canadians. Gender is fluid. No, it is not. I'm sorry. I will fight that one to the mat. You are what you are.
Well, I know it's not for me, but I can't be sure about anyone else.
No, because here's the thing. Well, no, I'm not going to get into a whole gender studies thing here, but you know what? Look between your legs. There's your gender. Get over it. Does Picard look exactly like himself or like Crichton from Red Dwarf? What do you mean, does he look exactly... Oh, the robot Picard? No, he looks exactly like himself. It's just Patrick Stewart. There's no special makeup, no difference whatsoever.
All the liver spots or age spots.
Yeah, and they even said that he's not going to live any longer just because he's in a robot body. And they have a little joke where Picard says, you could have given me 10 extra years or 20. And it's like, yeah, why the hell wouldn't you?
It's like they know how long he's going to live, but they're not going to tell him.
Right. Yeah, they're like, well, we know you only got 6 months left, and that's as long as this battery's going to last anyway.
He was afraid could you make me immortal?
It should have been Tom Hardy. That would have been cool, except that they couldn't afford him. Death Dealer, gotta go. All right, Death Dealer, have a good one, my friend. They could have given him hair. Yeah, that would have been funny. Girardi's face times 1,000. Sheer effing nightmare fuel. Yeah, all those eyes too close together. Oh, man. Was soon lore? No. There was no mention of lore from beginning to end.
And I think it's pretty much proven that he's not lore at this point.
Right. And in fact, Data even refers to Soon as his brother. Which is kind of stupid because, no, he's not. But whatever. And so, yeah, the anything that would I agree that lore should have been involved in some way because, and this is something that, this is not the first time this has happened. This happened in TNG as well. Or like think about Nemesis, where everybody just conveniently forgets that yes, Data had an elder brother, and so like when they found B4 in Nemesis, they're like, wow, another one. And there's plenty of references to B4, but apparently everybody just forgot about lore. Thomas is okay with one type of ship running low on space. I get that. And I actually, like I said, I thought the ship looked okay. And let's see. Is it possible to do modern Star Trek season where all of life everywhere isn't about to die? Apparently not. And love it or hate it, TNG finally closes. Let's toast. I will give you that. TNG, well, the problem is though, here's the thing, Mercer. Until season 2. So I know Joe's looking forward to that.
I'm just curious where they're going to go. I mean...
Oh, they're going to all explore their
anything.
sexuality next season. So Picard and Rios will become lovers.
If he gets a little 3-way with Girardi and
no, it's just going to be Picard and Rios. Actually, no, I think it's going to be Picard and Elnor.
Oh God.
You're
going to visit Epstein planet.
Yeah.
Elnor, there's a very planet I want you to see. Elnor's like, Risa? She's like, no, this planet is named Epstein.
Make it
Covered
so.
with V.
It should look up the gingerbread trans diagram that explains the trans well.
Oh, and Girardi saying, make it so.
Ugh. It's been a while, but in TOS, Sulu and Chekhov didn't graduate at the same time. One was on the Enterprise later. If so, Divergent changed more than sexuality. Well, that's the problem is that... no, but here's the thing, Valor. You're right. Sulu and Chekhov didn't graduate at the same time. We don't know when Sulu and Chekhov graduated the Academy in the Kelvinverse, because remember, neither Sulu nor Chekhov were cadets like Kirk was. So apparently in the Kelvin timeline, Sulu and Chekhov were both commissioned officers before Kirk.
No, Sulu was a cadet.
No, he wasn't.
He didn't know how to fly the goddamn ship.
He was not a cadet. They never refer to Sulu as cadet.
Well, because by the time we meet him, he's on the Enterprise. He's
right,
an
but
officer.
so Chekhov is an ensign and Sulu is a lieutenant in Star Trek 2009.
But didn't Spock? Didn't he graduate? Didn't they all graduate basically before they got on the Enterprise?
The only people that you can confirm are in the same class as Kirk is Uhura. Everybody else was already a commissioned officer. But here's the thing though, is that but that is also some 20 odd years later after the Divergent, which means that could be impacted by it.
Wasn't Bones also in
you're right. Dr. McCoy was also in the same classes as Kirk. So Kirk, McCoy, and Uhura. But Spock was already a lieutenant commander. So Spock should have been a freaking admiral by the time Star Trek 2 happened. Thomas says, I said Picard and Elnor before, you son of a bitch. Sorry, I didn't catch that, Thomas. Isn't Picard now Data's son? Yes. Which is kind of weird. And Indie Tiger puts $2 in and says, it's the 25th century. Gender is gaseous. Yeah, apparently. United Federation of Planets, La Serena, Borg, Synth Planet, they have the same force field and transporter effects, no different version between races. That's true. By this point in time, the Federation flagship isn't Enterprise, it's the USS Alex Jones in CC 1776. Sulu does mention his age. Yeah, I'm not talking about his age. I'm talking about, but he was already a graduate. He was not in the same graduating class as Kirk. They ripped off the Orville, but they had a battle in that show that was better arc than this garbage. I don't think, I've heard people say they ripped off the Orville. How do you figure they ripped off the Orville?
I don't know. Because Kalons.
But the Borg were around before the Kalon.
I don't know. Kalons are AIs. The AIs are coming to kill everybody.
Well, the thing is that you could say that they, that's one of the oldest.
I don't agree. I'm just saying that's the only thing I can imagine.
Hell, go back to 1968, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Killer AI is nothing new.
Is McCoy still alive? It's possible.
Well, he was alive as of Encounter at Farpoint.
So. I mean, he was almost Walking Dead at Encounter at Farpoint.
Right. But wasn't McCoy in Starfleet before he was kind of... No, actually, McCoy was just a doctor And this is actually something that's also true, is that people that have highly specialized trades, like physicians and stuff, can sometimes get into the military under special circumstances, and even though they are, maybe not physically fit, but they have these certain skills, and so they can join later in life. Should Starfleet be a little worried since Romulan spy was in charge of all of security? Nah, no, that's no big deal. And by the way, notice we never got a redemption arc for Captain Potty or Admiral Pottymouth.
Well, I think she was redeemed last episode. Which
Right, but I mean, I wanted more from her. I actually liked her in the last episode, but yeah. Star Trek 2009, McCoy, wait a minute. How old are you? Chekhov, 17. McCoy said, oh, good, he's 17. Spock says, Dr. Mr. Chekhov. Yeah, I know. But that does, just because Chekhov was 17, he was an ensign. He wasn't a cadet.
So the Synth Federation was real. Well, I don't know if I'd call it a federation, but there was some type of synth octopus ready to destroy the universe.
Right, but we never got to actually see anything but its tentacle. Sulu talked about taking piloting lessons in Star Trek 4. When we first see him in TOS, he was a science officer and head of the astrophysics department on the Enterprise. Was Sulu was a science officer? Are you sure about that, Ensign Ricky? Because the first time we see Sulu, he's taking the helm.
He's always wearing gold.
Yeah, and he never wore blue, so I'm not sure what you're talking about, Ensign Ricky. And no, Captain Crandall, nope. Kurtzman needs to go the way of Andy Checker's ponytail into the void. Okay.
I'd say it's inconclusive that this is connected with Discovery. It's hinted, but it's inconclusive.
They don't do anything blatant to connect it to Discovery, but I do think that the tentacles are the same things that attacked the probe in Discovery Season 2. Tentacles, connection to Discovery, tentacles from the future wanted to kill Pike on the... Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Joseph. I think it's the same tentacle. Sulu then became part of the command division and was named a lieutenant for the first time during the Corba... Oh, you're talking about in the Prime timeline versus... Yeah, I know that Sulu was... well, the funny thing is he was actually the head of the mathematics department in the pilot.
Racist.
I know, that was kind of racist, wasn't it? But... Then he became the... I thought you were talking about in 2009, but I'm not saying his career wasn't different. I'm talking about in the 2009 timeline, we never saw Sulu as a cadet. And no, Sulu was not in the cage. His first appearance was in Where No Man Has Gone Before, but he was in the sciences at that point. And so, anyway, sorry, Ensign Ricky, I misunderstood you, but yes, if you look at Sulu from TOS, his first appearance was in Where No Man Has Gone Before, where he was in charge of mathematics, because racism, but then they made him the helmsman later. Thomas loved the tentacle. Oh, yes, love the tentacle. Do you get that? You probably don't.
No.
Okay, it's from Futurama.
Oh, right.
I think CBS wants to distance themselves from STD. No, they don't. Now, Viacom may want to, but CBS doesn't. CBS thinks, and that's the stupid thing about these idiots in charge over at CBS All Access, and why I'm so glad that the Viacom merger is going to change things, because they really think Star Trek Discovery is like the freaking ultimate. They think it's great. I guarantee you that Kurtzman thinks that when we saw Michael effing Burnham as the first thing in this episode, that everybody was like, yes, Michael Burnham's coming back, woohoo! I swear, I think that's what they really believe we're thinking.
I hope not.
You don't think that they're that dumb, that thick?
No, I think they were I don't say purposely, but I think if anything, I think they were doing it just to piss us off.
No, because here's the thing. I really think they genuinely believe that there's this tiny little group of racists and homophobes that don't like Michael Burnham. And misogynist, of course. That there's like 1% of the audience doesn't like Michael Burnham.
And I think they were putting it there to piss off that 1%.
I don't. I think that they were doing it because they think everybody's going to celebrate the triumphant return of Miss Mary Sue. And you know, and I'm sure, you know, now she's even more Mary Sue-ish because she's going to save the future.
She's the last best hope.
Yeah. Phantom says in the 2000 movie and onwards, at least they made Sulu gay. I don't think he was before it. Right, but that was a mistake. You know, even George Takei was against that. And by the way, it wasn't in 2009. He wasn't gay until Star Trek Beyond. They basically did not address his sexuality in Star Trek 2009 or Star Trek Into Darkness. I know I should know, but who is Michael? You don't know who Michael Burnham is? She's the main character in Star Trek Discovery, a complete and utter Mary Sue to the most extreme degree in history. She is the very prototype of a Mary Sue. She is more of a Mary Sue than freaking Rey from Star Wars.
She's Spock's adopted human stepsister.
Who's better than Spock?
Taught Spock everything she knew.
No, she talks about everything he knows. Nobody could learn everything she knows. Is that kind of thing you can invite? Is this kind of thing you can invite me on? Huh?
No, it's not StreamYard.
Oh, right now, no. We're just in a we're in a Skype call. Right
I mean,
now.
I guess, yeah. I don't know if they have Skype or whatever.
That Michael Burnham glory shot with the flag was too epic. It almost blinded me. Yeah. But Piano, if you have Skype, then we could get you in there if you had something you needed to say. But I'm going to be wrapping it up here in a minute. We will always remember what made Star Trek and Star Wars great. This new stuff is lacking with some hints of coolness. I'd rather die than live out my life as the man I just saw. Yeah, it's
That's the speech Picard gives in the Q episode where Q pretends to be God.
right. Oh, I see. You wanted to do like a test song. Yeah, I don't have the. If I had Streamlabs set up, I would do it, Piano Dean, but I can't right now because I got to get some sleep because I got to work in a few hours, which really sucks for me. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say.
Yeah, Dean, if you join someone else with StreamYard, you can basically test it.
Yeah.
That way, there's going to be a lot of people streaming today who will have StreamYard if you join any of their streams. I'm sure none of them would mind a test song.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I wish work was canceled, Species. I wish it was, but no, my job is considered essential, so I have to work. They hinted in in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker book that Palpatine will come back forever. They may do it as well. I don't care. Star Wars is done. As far as the Skywalker saga, it's over. They screwed it up too much. Long live the Mandalorian. Hopefully that continues to be good. And so yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to be streaming in a minute. Now, come on. Who wants to get an exclusive Piano Dean thing going on? Who's going to start a stream and get Piano freaking Dean, the greatest musician on YouTube, on with you? He's going to be... Now, Piano Dean, we're still planning on doing tonight, right? And so now I'm waiting for someone to answer. And by the way, if you've not heard... good. And so, yeah. So tonight, I get off work at 7 p.m. Central, and then I will immediately, as soon as I get the stream set up, I'll send you the link via Twitter. The short one is songs on ambient. Oh, man. All right. If you're doing an ambient song, I want to... Now, let me see if I can get StreamYard set up then. Or is it... Yeah, StreamYard, right?
StreamYard, no S.
I always get Streamlabs and StreamYard confused. All right, so we'll create Piano Dean All right, so I don't know if you'll be able to hear them. You probably won't.
I'll mute myself and
And if
listen through
actually
the
what I'll do,
browser.
Joe, is I'll actually send you an invite to come into the StreamYard once I get the studio set up here.
Okay, I'll drop off then.
All right.
Take care.
No problem. All right, so we'll go into the studio. And turn off that. All right. Invite. And hold on, Dean. I go to Twitter. All right. All right, I just sent you the link, Dean. Well, you guys are in for a treat here. And so I see Bird. And let me close this. Bear with me, guys. So hopefully, Piano Dean, you get this soon. And Bird, give me a test on the audio side, please.
I hear you. I hear you in StreamYard just fine.
Okay, good. Well, it looks like you should. The folks should be able to hear you just fine too. So now we just got to wait for Dean to come in.
If you can hear me, the secret number is 12.
I also have to answer it on my PP home since I'm using my camera's phone. All right. So, well, do you need a minute? So, we'll give you a minute here.
Thank you, Indy.
Lots of lazy writing these last two episodes. Very lazy. I agree, Miles. A lot of really convenient, massive character changes that just crapped all over what we've been seeing before. And let me see. If we go here. Look, there's me and Bird. Of course, that looks horrible, but oh well. You son of a bitch, anti-trigger! What did I do? Look. So, we'll move me over here.
What's not posted yet? LDG says something's not posted. It's killing him.
What?
LDG.
Still not posted.
Pixels says still
I'm
not
dying
posted.
here. I know. Yeah, what are you talking about, LG? You son of a bitch, anti-trigger. Picard. Picard hasn't posted yet? You mean like where you are, you can't watch it yet?
Well, if you have CBS All Access, it should be. If
Yeah.
you have Amazon, it's not going to be till tomorrow, I believe.
Oh, sure. So Piano D was like, okay, we got to do it, guys. But then he forgets to...
Oh, I think he means on the high seas, Yar.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you're watching it on the high seas, I don't feel bad for you because that's, that's wrong and bad and illegal and stuff. So Seraph says the ships look like crap. I don't know. I thought the ships look all right.
I wasn't a fan. I couldn't tell what they looked like, to be completely honest.
Well, let me see. I'm going to bring up while we're waiting. Can you watch the chat for me? Because I can't see it.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to find a good shot of the ships here.
Oh, Robert My Burnett's in the chat.
Oh, Robert, good to see you, my friend.
Oh, he left.
And he's gone, huh?
Yeah,
How do you know he left?
I can tell. He said, Anti-Trigger's not here to greet me. I'm gone. Goodbye forever. And I'm blocking you.
He did not. That is so not Robert. Are you just messing with me now?
Of course I'm messing with you. Nithilis is what the something did I just watch? Yeah, well, some people really liked it. Some people really hated it. Some people are mixed like myself. And some people don't know what to think like Anti-Trigger.
Well, I like aspects of it.
Commander Shutter says Bird is the best. Long live Kuroga. Thank you, Commander Shutter. And Thomas says hello, Mama Prey. I believe she is still napping. She watched the episode and she fell back asleep. Dreamer out there says Anti-Tracker, Bird of Prey, the United Federation of Planet ships look like Vesta classes, kind of.
I don't remember the Vesta class.
I don't know what a Vesta class is. Maybe it's from Star Trek Online.
All right.
Ion says Bird of Prey that kind of look like very Enterprise ships without the paint all silvery like.
All right, I got a good shot of the ships here. So let me bring this over now.
And Ensign Ricky says the Romulan ships almost look like 747s. I don't know. I didn't see that.
So
747s have a hump.
Right. So here's the Starfleet fleet. Now, are these the best ships we've ever seen from Star Trek? No. But I do think, I like the shuttle bay in the front. I think that's kind of cool.
Where do you see a shuttle bay?
You don't see, look at, right where you see my mouse pointer?
That's a shuttle bay?
I think so.
I mean, I can't tell what the hell I'm looking at. I guess that's the front of the saucer.
You're right.
I guess that's a shuttle bay. Okay, maybe.
Right. I think that's kind of cool. They're going for a very compact design. Notice that the saucer only appears to be one deck thick. These are small ships.
What are you talking about? There's like 3 decks at least on top.
No, I'm talking about the rim of the saucer.
The rim of the saucer. So these are tiny ships.
Yes, these are like the size of the NX.
These are supposed to be the most powerful ships Starfleet's ever built.
Powerful doesn't mean huge.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
We all know it does.
Where's the deflector? Well, obviously they don't need deflectors anymore.
Dreamer out there says Bird of Prey Vesta classes were Esri's ship from the relaunch novels, the USS Aventine, also in STO. Okay, well, I did not read those novels, nor do I play as Star Trek Online, so...
Now, are these the best Federation ships ever? No, but they at least look Federation.
I'll grant you they look Federation, but
Yeah.
I was disappointed that that's what we saw. Mr. Miles.
And no, we're not all ignoring you, Mercer. I'm sorry, I can't watch the chat very closely because I'm trying to get a couple of things set up in the background here.
Mercer says, I like a sequel to iRobot, also screenplay by Akiva.
Oh, it was like a sequel to iRobot.
It was like a sequel.
Yeah. Did get a link. Yes, Pion, check your Twitter. I sent it to you. The USS Defiant was small but powerful ship. Exactly. Just because something is small doesn't mean it's not badass. And I agree.
Nobody would said the Defiant's the most powerful ship Starfleet ever built.
Huh?
Nobody would ever have said the Defiant was the most powerful ship
but the
Starfleet's
Defiant
ever
also,
built.
but the Defiant was a kick-ass ship.
Yes, it was a kick-ass ship.
All right.
But Riker said this is the most powerful ship Starfleet's ever built.
Yes. You got a problem with that?
I don't know, but I love what Fandom Menace just wrote.
What happened to all the thousands of non-Romulan people in the Romulan fleet evacuated their people? Did they leave as well?
Yeah, what happened to all the scientists that were working over there?
Oh,
they're scientists.
They're all living on the refugee planet.
How did they get to the refugee planet?
Quantum.
I mean, they went out of their way to establish that there were hundreds of scientists from all around the quadrant working on that Borg cube, and then gone. Then it was just Romulan versus XP.
Well, here's what you missed, Bird, was that there was a pandemic, and they all had to go home because it's lockdown.
I mean, where did they evacuate to? There were no ships.
There was a pandemic. They had to do social distancing.
I think they social distanced themselves right out the airlock door.
Right. Well, that's
Borg.
Yeah, that's what they did when they opened up the garage door and they evacuated the Borg. They sent the scientists too. They figured, what the hell, we don't need them.
Oh, Robert Hammer says they all use the Stargate, the spatial trajector.
Bill 23799 liked it.
Mercer says they wish they used the badges that turn green in episode 2. Yeah, they set up so many things, like the badges. If they turn green or gray, get the hell out of there. They set up Captain Crandall.
Right.
They set up Elnor wanting to meet a cat. They
But
set up all these things that they never paid off on.
That's part of the problem with the inconsistent writing, though. I think that's where you see like showrunners switching and that kind of thing.
I have to think that they did have it written that way at first, and then because of the rewrites, we lost all that stuff.
Now I know Thomas and Mercer have been trying to get my attention on this, saying that the front of that starship looked like the NX deflector. That was my first thought, but if you look at it carefully, it looks more like a landing bay than a deflector. So they did evacuate the scientists. I imagine they left the Romulans with the Romulans when the cube started to wake up. But with the Romulans, that was their attack fleet. So are all the scientists on the Romulan attack fleet right now?
Like, there was a Trill scientist Soji became friends with.
Right.
What happened to her?
Let's see.
Mr. Miles says, anti-trigger bird of prey. Did they evacuate the scientist? I imagine. Oh, you just read this.
Yeah.
But who did they evacuate them to? They did evacuate the scientists.
And so Piano Dean's having some problems. Says it tells me that I don't have a camera. I'm using my iPhone. Well, since I don't use Apple devices, I'm not sure what to say. I don't exactly. I don't know how.
You might have to give the browser or whatever permission to use your camera. Yeah. I don't know how you do that on an Apple device.
Right, I don't either.
Although you shouldn't need it. You shouldn't need a camera. You should be able to do it with an avatar, unless you want the camera.
The small scene where everybody looks back up to the ships in the sky from the planet. They all look like B-52 bombers that looked at the scene from movie Tour. No, you know what that made me think of? It made me think of the stupidity of The Last Jedi when the Star Destroyers warped in and they looked up and saw them in the sky. Because there's no effing way they could have seen those Romulan ships from the planet.
Yeah, those are tiny, tiny ships.
Yeah. The ships were small. They were no bigger than the ISS space station, and they were further away than the ISS space station. And when you look up, do you see the ISS? Sorry, what were we saying, Bird?
I said they were way out of the atmosphere.
Yeah. So Mercer says, what's the best scene in Picard? For me, the best scene was his news interview. I love that scene. I thought the news interview was okay, but kind of heavy-handed. As far as the best scene of the series, what do you think?
I'd say his talk with his doctor from the Stargazer.
You like that scene?
It felt the most genuine to me.
See, I think the single best shot in the series was the Borg cube coming out of the transwarp hub or gate.
I don't think 2 seconds counts as.
I know that's the problem. That doesn't really count as a scene. That was just like one shot. But I think that it's tough. But I'm going to say I actually liked the scene with Admiral Pottymouth. If you link the two scenes with Admiral Pottymouth together, while I didn't appreciate the F-bombs, I liked the fact that they set up a realistic tension between her and Picard in episode 2, and it paid off in episode 9. I liked their little arc together.
And Mercer liked any scene with Zhaban and his Romulan housekeeper. I did like them. I'll be honest. They were some of my favorite characters in the show.
Oh yeah,
and
Picard
the fact that they haven't been.
That's a good one, Miles. The scene with Picard and Seven right before she went on her murder spree. The did you regain your humanity? And let's see. Apparently 7 of 9 turned the XO gay. How lovely. Yes. Yes, indeed.
And I think you're right. I don't think any woman talked down to Picard. Girardi was asking him, what are you up to? But then she realized he was just like having an aromatic syndrome moment.
Right. Mercer, like when Jabon told him to be the captain, they remembered. I didn't care for that because it didn't fit the context, because Jabon never knew him as Captain Picard.
Well, they've been living there for 10 years. I'm sure Picard used to ramble about what things were like on the Enterprise.
Right. The nice thing, though, is that while this show definitely had its problems, it truly, truly had its problems, what me and Bird have been ranting about for the last hour and a half, but it definitely was a step in the right direction after STD. Not a huge step, but it was a step. And so I think that it was an improvement, but I think they have a long ways to go before the fans are all on board again. And Ryan says, I bet Frank's filmed the bridge scene in Canada. The bridge looked a lot like Discovery. Yeah, well, it was the redress of the Enterprise bridge from Discovery.
Dreamer out there says no explanation of where Soon came from. And Girardi said Bruce said Soon was his code ninja, implying Bruce knew him and Girardi told him that she knew he was there. That's true. Girardi did say that Bruce told her that he was...
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Means
so
that
she shouldn't have been surprised about his presence at all.
And she should have probably known where he was.
Don't!
And O should have gotten that information during her mind meld.
Right.
It's like, oh, I see you've been lying to us this whole time.
Mr. Rouse says, Picard not being an android is such bad writing, a big mistake. I agree. That was the dumbest thing about this episode, was that why did they kill him? And Mercer, please don't spam the comments. I get it. You didn't hate the series. But you know what? I didn't hate the series. But here's the problem, is that was it well directed? Overall, I think yes. Was it well acted? Overall, I would say yes. But it was really poorly written. And this is the plague of modern Trek. It's not as far as the general direction, yeah, the acting is fine. The visual effects are good. I know some people want to rail on them because they don't look like classic visual effects. But I think overall, it looks good. It's directed fine. But the writing is antithetical to Trek. It's nihilistic and dark and depressing, which is the opposite of Trek. This episode, they tried, and they've done this a couple of times now, where they try to give lip service to classic Trek tropes, like, being optimistic and self-sacrifice and crap like that. But the problem is that it feels like lip service because we just watched 9 episodes where life means nothing. And so you can't feed me 10 gallons of crap and an ounce of Chardonnay and say, isn't that great Chardonnay? You see what
Thomas, I hear you.
Yeah.
Thomas asks, Bird of Prey, will you count the Picard death? And no, because I'm counting murders and suicides. Picard's death was natural. So it doesn't count as a murder or suicide. I will count Narek's sister, Narissa, falling into the doom, but which I believe would make the total for the season 88 plus all the Borg.
Right. Ensign Ricky put $2 in and says, it's far better than Discovery. That is all. Yeah. Well, it's definitely far better than Discovery. And so, I mean, if this is the beginning of a trend, I'm for it. But we need to get writers that are not nihilists. We absolutely need that. I don't know. Do you agree with me on the nihilism thing, or do you think I'm way off base?
I don't know what nihilism means.
Nihilism is...
I mean, I know what it means. I just...
Well, I don't know. You're kind of dumb sometimes, so...
Yeah.
And Indy Tiger puts $5 in. Let's see if our disembodied voice reads it.
Best scene was when Girardi told Picard, here we come to that, no, I've been promising you. Then she became stupid.
So Girardi told Picard, we came here, Girardi told Picard, here we come to that, no, I've been promising you, and then she became stupid. Oh, yeah, in the early episodes. Yeah, that with the the whole thing about making a sentient android was impossible kind of thing.
He didn't kill himself, Captain Trek. It hastened his death, but he didn't kill himself.
Right. He said that would only speed up the inevitable.
Speed up the inevitable.
Right. Picard's death was because of the aromatic syndrome, even though they never say aromatic syndrome because they're afraid or something.
Probably have to pay somebody who came up with aromatic syndrome.
Probably, yeah. And you know what? People that play that kind of pissing game where, oh my God, we don't want to pay royalties to someone, so we'll change the name of, screw you people. It just, the story comes first, damn it. So in other words, nothing changed except Data died again. And Picard now has a robot body. Why did Admiral Potty believe him when she did not before... or she was going to believe him when she did not before. She was going to humor him or lock him up for being crazy. Why did she believe him? She never thought that Picard was dishonest. She just thought that he was self-righteous and, she said sheer effing hubris.
No, but now she believed that there was a threat somewhere.
Right.
So that she sent the fleet. I guess the question is, why did she believe that there's a threat somewhere now? Right. I guess she has some evidence.
Still waiting for Piano Dean. Hopefully he manages to get his connections working here. Mr. Miles said, the way they set up the end, hopefully 7 will be a bigger part of season 2. I would be surprised, but I don't know. Not this 7. I'm sorry. She doesn't feel like 7. Swaggerly 7 that's like Rios, but with boobs. No, thank you. I want, 7 is stoic, 7 is pragmatic, 7 is not a swaggerly murderer machine. Season 2 prediction, Soji and Picard get sent into a Federation slave labor camp to build ships since the synth ban is off. That would be awesome.
It also seemed like Picard was reinstated as an admiral.
Yeah. JP says nothing wrong with nihilism. Well, disagree with you on that. I think nihilism is horrible. My favorite characters on the show is still Picard's house Romulans. I'm glad that 7 killed Incest Sister, but she was the hottest Romulan I've ever seen on screen on Trek. She was not bad. Bondage Brittany says, how did reason enter the world? As is fitting in an irrational way, accidentally, we will all have to guess at it like a riddle. Nietzsche, this is the idiocy of nihilism. Well, I'll tell you, nihilism is so bleak, so depressing, and just so hopeless that I have no place for it. And I understand that some people embrace nihilism, and that's why, quite frankly, you have idiots doing the Tide Pod challenge, because there's no value to life. And, screw that noise. I think there's value to life. Rambling Canuck says, but if you see them during the worst, seeing them overcome that and come to the light side of things is to be more powerful, just a thought. Right, but the problem is that it felt like lip service in this episode. It didn't feel like a philosophical point or anything like that. It just felt like we're putting in Picard speech number 7 because we are obligated to. You may have been right about the cube rising in an atmosphere, maybe not possible. Did I say something about the cube rising in an atmosphere? I don't remember.
I don't. I didn't. I know that much.
Miles says, if the computer running Data got bumped into, I'll bet those chips would have fallen out. That's true.
They were USB heads on all of them.
Yeah.
Like they were stuck in USB ports.
Bernard Pere, you and Antrag are entitled to be wrong. He euthanized himself. Suicide. He did not euthanize himself, Captain Trek. Basically, what he did was he had her give him a shot that would allow him to function better, but it would also accelerate the aromatic syndrome. So that's not the same as euthanasia. If she had just given him a shot of cyanide and he just died, that would be euthanasia. But the drug itself was actually, it would be like taking a whole lot of painkillers because you're in excruciating pain, but the painkillers would make it so that your body wouldn't be able to heal in order to do something that needed to be done.
Ryan asks, any idea what the death toll is for the season now? I have it as preliminarily as 88 plus the Borg. That doesn't include Picard, and it doesn't include Data.
Yeah.
Because Data didn't have a body, and Picard didn't kill himself, and in the end didn't really die.
And Tom says, I don't know about how I feel about Picard being a Cylon now. I think it was stupid. Ralph says, it's not that the writers were nihilists or just incompetent. The writing has been all over the place with no pacing. Well, the writing has switched up a bit, and that is a majorly problem. But I think the underlying nihilistic philosophy of the writers is apparent, and I do think it hurts the show. I wouldn't mind seeing Rios as this series as a captain of a Starfleet ship again. I liked Rios as a character, except for the thing is that it was stupid that he was smoking. I'm sorry, that's the thing, is that there's no respect to the lore of Trek. People don't smoke in the 24th century. Period. But no, we have two characters that are smoking throughout this series. Whatever. The posters of Discovery Season 3 don't give me hope. Nothing about Discovery gives me hope. So I wonder if Picard would be able to hear the collective anymore. No more leftover parts. Ooh, good question. And Thomas says, you are blurry. I'm blurry? Okay. Sorry. It doesn't look blurry on my screen.
Thomas, you might have to manually increase the resolution.
Right, because YouTube has been throttling a lot of streams.
Yeah, when I came on the DJ stream, they had it at 144.
Yeah.
I had to put it up to 720, but once I did, it was fine.
Loquisha says, this show is a fail. Picard is a zombie, literally now. The whole Borg subplot was pointless, and Steven is just another character with the same name. Or Seven is just another character with the same name. I don't buy that Picard is a zombie. I mean, yes, Picard is a robot now. He's basically more like a Cylon than anything. As far as the Borg subplot, I agree, Loquicious. It was pointless. It was a complete red herring. And even and I was so pissed off because at first I'm like, oh, well, the Borg thing was a red herring. Then they bring the Borg back. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was a red herring again. So, yeah. Huge future USB version 38.1. Yes. And so, Piano Dean's going to try tomorrow. Thanks, Piano Dean. You keep us up just to tell me, nope, not going to happen. Just kidding. No, I'm not, but I am. But you said the cube is not meant for planetary flight, and it looks like you were right, at least. I think it was you. Maybe it was Bird. I don't remember, but the thing is that the cube, what I wanted to see, and what I really think they should have done, was to have Seven, like when they're trying to defend the planet, they should have had Seven launch the sphere out of the cube. Since they made a point to show that it had the sphere port. The Golem was a Deus Ex Machina and Chekhov's gun. Well, Chekhov's gun, really the cube was an example of a poorly used Chekhov's gun, because the cube was there and we wanted to see it in action throughout the entire series, and we got nothing. It came through a portal. I mean, basically, you know what we learned? 7 of 9 is about as effective as a pilot as Bird of Prey 5. That's what we learned. Am I lying, Bird?
I'm a decent pilot.
Okay, 7 of 9 can land about the equivalent of Bird.
7 didn't land the ship. The Orchids did.
Okay, the Orchids can land the ship about as well as Bird.
There you go.
Okay. And Phantom, yes, I did hear about the Rise of Skywalker book, but honestly, at this point, don't care. Berman is laughing his ass off and flexing tonight. Phi is saying, whipping boy, not sure why, and I am blurry, okay. Will every ship in the future get their own Picard? Yes, of course. Because, you're going to mass-produce Picard and make a slave race of Picards, because why not? And by the way, notice they never resolved the fact that the Federation had built a slave army. The only problem that Picard had with it was that they banned them. You realize that, so the moral of the story is slavery is good.
I think you're jumping a conclusion there that
Really?
Somebody to a conclusion there. Does a slavery as good as the moral of the story?
Yes, because the whole thing, remember, Picard wanted to use slave labor to rebuild the rescue fleet, but they banned the slaves. And then, what does Picard do? He gets Romulan slaves to work his vineyard, right? And so at the
They're
end...
not slaves.
So at the end, we find out slavery is good, because now at the end, the Federation lifts the ban on slavery so we can build more slaves. Isn't life grand? You know. Max says, I feel this is a missed opportunity. It would have been amazing if they just had the guts to kill him. That would have been better, but yeah. You can see where the change occurred between Shaban and Kurtzman. You can see some of it, but the problem is sometimes it's like, how do you tell what's what?
I think they went back and edited all the episodes. I don't think there's any episode that's all Shaban or all Kurtzman or Kiva or whoever the hell they are.
And by the way, here's an example of Bird of Prey's expert piloting skills.
For a spaceship.
So you see...
Now, not all the engines were in the final locations because I never quite finished. And I didn't have any weapons. But yeah, this would have been the ship that would have taken on the Goliath had it seems like so long ago.
See, just like a Borg cube.
That could have happened to anyone.
Yeah, but it did happen to you.
Had the battle ever happened?
Just flew right into a planetoid there. Thank you, Thomas. I saw JP said to retract his statement because he looked up nihilism. That's cool, man. Nihilism in a Lovecraft story makes sense, but definitely not in Star Trek, which is supposed to be about hope. Agreed. That's the thing. I'm not saying that nihilism as a writing tool is 100% bad. But in Trek, it absolutely is. The whole point of Trek is to look to an optimistic view of the future, and there's nothing optimistic in the Generation 3 Trek. You thought Kurtz would remember all his own story points after he said that he can't remember canon or even bother with canon lore? Well, I didn't hear him say that, but, you know. Picard, man, bad. Okay. Effing drop the slave stuff. You're wrong. Drop it. There were no slaves in Picard. Uh-huh. First of all, even if you want to argue about the house servants, and I understand I'm using hyperbole. Hold on a second. Mercer puts in $2.
I got him!
Wait for it.
Maddox and Picard needed debate about android slavery.
That actually would have been better. If we had a discussion between Maddox and Picard about android slavery, that actually would have been interesting. But you could say what you want about the house servants, right? That, oh, they weren't really slaves. They were just servants. Just because Picard is rich and can afford to have people, you know, basically bow down his every whim, that doesn't make them slaves. Fine. However, there is absolutely zero argument that the synths on Mars were anything but slaves. And they were an absolutely perfect representation of what Guinan warned of in Measure of a Man. They were exactly what Guinan warned of in Measure of a Man. That if you could replicate data, you could make an entire race of slaves to simply do the manual labor. And that's exactly what they were. They were slaves, 100%. And they were even dumbed down so that they wouldn't revolt. You care to argue with me on that, Bird? I think Bird fell asleep. Somebody wake up, Bird. Hey, he's out. If you don't think a robot can be conscious and Picard is a robot, then he is alive but not conscious equals zombie. I disagree. Robots can't be conscious, but otherwise it logically follows. I get what you're saying, Loquacious, but I'm saying, first of all, no, do I believe that a machine can be sentient? No, I do not. However, within the confines of the writing of this, the idea is that robots can be sentient. And so I'm willing to let them have that, even though it's pure fantasy. And so, as such, I don't think Picard is a zombie. What we learned is that Seven looks great, but was just so Borg Queen. Picard still has his plantation with Romulan serfs, but no Remans allowed. Yeah, the Remans, no mention of. Still, throughout. So I guess the Remans are just effed. When Picard was dying and said, Raffi, you were right, I wanted to say I always hated it when you call me JL and then dies. That would have been good. That would have been good.
I'm awake. I'm awake.
What happened?
You know what happened.
Oh, okay. So you were.
It was a particularly long Jaloja.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it.
So any argument though about my slavery point is with the
No, those synths on Mars certainly. I don't know if I'd call them slaves, but they were certainly made to be disposable people, exactly like Guinan warned.
Yeah. And so and Picard.
Although I would say for a good cause.
Oh, so slavery for a good cause is okay.
Well, it's not slavery if they're not people.
Well, according to Picard, they are.
But those guys, I don't think Picard would have argued those synths were like Data. I don't think they were self-aware.
Picard was an advocate for synth rights. He was trying to.
He was an advocate. But just because one robot is self-aware doesn't mean every robot ever created is self-aware.
But according to Picard, they are.
No, that's not what he said.
When you look at if you look at the behavior of Picard, and if you look at the overall flow of this series, Picard
was talking about Data in Measure of a Man.
Okay, then you tell me, why was Picard upset that they banned synths? Just so that because they couldn't build the fleet? And if that's the case, why did he get upset about how the Federation let down Daj and Soji when they banned synths? Because they were just banning toasters. They weren't banning sentient life forms.
I don't think he was all that pissed off about the ban on synths. I think he was more pissed off about the fact they weren't helping the Romulans.
Did you not watch this series? He was furious. He quit Starfleet over the banning of synths.
He quit Starfleet over them not helping the Romulans. If it was just the ban on synths, I think he would have still been in Starfleet.
I don't. But
he quit Starfleet because they failed the Romulans. The synths was his way of getting them to fix the ships, to make ships, to get Romulans. He didn't care about the synths because he wanted synths to have planets and live kumbaya. He wanted synths to make ships to help Romulans.
I don't know. I don't buy that. I'm sorry, because if you look at the way that Picard was behaving, he was furious over the ban of synths, and he kept talking about how that was a slight against synthetic life, that it was horrible and short-sighted and hateful and fearful for them to ban synths. And that he kept over and over as a theme throughout this entire series was this whole thing that the Federation was wrong for banning synths. That the whole thing about, the Federation's overreaction to the attack on Mars was to ban synthetic research and all that, and how wrong that was. If that's the case, if that's all wrong, why would it be wrong? Because here's the thing. If in a modern context, if we have non-sentient equipment, like let's say you have a brand of tractor that explodes because somebody sabotages a bunch of them, and so the federal government says, nope, you can't make that kind of tractor anymore. And would somebody be upset that you can't make that kind of tractor anymore? Would somebody say that's an affront to civil rights? Would somebody say that this is, how could you possibly do this? It's wrong and fearful. No, you would say, okay, we need a different kind of tractor.
I don't know. You lost me with the tractors.
Sorry. He doesn't matter with the synth ban because there are some sentient synths. He's pro-sentient rights, organic or synth. But here's the thing. They never, and Mr. Miles, as far as we know, at the time that Picard takes place, there have only been four, I'm just trying to make sure I got my numbers right. There have been 4 sentient synths, right? Data, Lore, Lal, and Data's mom.
What about B4?
B4 was a failure, so it didn't count. But if you want to count B4, you could say 5. So 5 true synths that were effectively truly sentient, all of which were dead. All of them, 100% dead. Which means that if it was simply about sentient life, there was no sentient synthetic life as far as Picard knew.
But I think Picard wanted the research to continue
so that they could play God?
He wanted them to make... Well, he knew Data was very special. I think he wanted research to continue so that one day they could make more Datas because Data was special.
But the whole point of Measure of a Man is that Data shouldn't be replicated.
Not replicated exactly, but more robots with the ability to learn and grow and become their own people.
As far as the Ugly Bags of Mostly Water episode, I wonder what happens to them. Does that mean with the ban that they should all be exterminated? Because, and the Jeffries Tube robots and all that. Yeah, I did make an assumption that the Data's mom is dead because we haven't heard from her and nobody mentioned her, and she was programmed to die. V'ger wouldn't count because V'ger's not a part of the Federation. But the nanites from that episode, Mr. Miles. So based on the Starfleet protocol, do they all have to be deactivated? And no, the Binars are not half synth. The Binars are cybernetic, as there's a difference. Technically speaking, I'm cybernetic. So synthetic is very different than cybernetic. A whole Romulan subplot amounted to nothing. There was just no point to any of the Romulan stuff. It didn't make use of the Borg tech, nothing. Romulans just turned and ran. Yeah, it was pointless. And Nomad is not a part of the Federation either, Mr. Miles. Bringing up them means nothing. But I'm saying, as far as the synth ban, in the context of Picard, every synth within the Federation, as far as we know, are dead. And by the way, does that mean that, let's say that Data's mom is still alive, does that mean that the Federation would then be obligated to find her and deactivate her?
If anybody knew, if it ever made it into official reports that she was an android, I suppose. But I think Data purposely hid that fact. And I think everybody on the Enterprise was okay with hiding the fact she was an android. So there should be no record of her being an android anywhere.
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch that episode. If there's zero records, so you think that Picard was involved in a cover-up of the existence of a synth?
Well, it wasn't a cover-up at the time.
Sure was. If they're going to purposely omit it from the records, that's a cover-up.
Data chose, because basically Dr. Soong asked that she not be told that she's synthetic or that she's an android, because she wasn't programmed to deal with it. She's supposed to think she's human.
And Brittany, let me make this clear. The synth ban was not just not creating anymore. They specifically said in the flashback that all existing synths were to be deactivated. So and that all research on future synths was to be terminated.
And Ion, the synths that were on Mars were not organic. They had the heads like Data.
Right. They were gold skins.
Yeah, they were androids. They weren't. I don't think even everybody on that planet was necessarily organic synth.
Yeah. And Mr. Rouse, the point, I'm not trying to list every synthetic life form that could count as sentient. What I'm talking about is if we're talking about the synth ban in the context of the Picard series, is that the equivalent of, what were the synth slaves? That's really what what the question comes up to. But I think that that the idea that banning, first of all, if synthetics are synthetic life forms, that would be like saying you're going to ban Asians, right? In the eyes of Picard, right?
Racist.
No, that's exactly right. That's what Picard thinks it is. He thinks it's racist. He thinks that, and Mercer, please stop with the all caps. but they and yes, they could continue to do basic research, but they couldn't do anything practical, which means they couldn't really do anything because you can't test it. But if all future synth construction was banned and all existing synths had to be deactivated, then that is, in Picard's mind, that is the equivalent of making a race of people illegal, which I think is what the underlying tone they were going for. That was the whole point of trying to make this an allegory for immigration. That because what is it that the far left likes to argue? There's no such thing as an illegal person, right? Because when people say illegal immigrant, it sounds like you're trying to say that this type of person is illegal, without talking about the fact that illegal immigrant was actually illegal immigration is a crime. It's not making a particular race illegal. It's making a particular action illegal.
Do you think? Oh, I'm sorry.
No. But I think that's what they were trying to go for, was that the synths were basically illegal aliens, and you can't make people illegal. What were you thinking?
Do you think this whole episode was an allegory for Mexicans coming into the United States and then wanting to open the border, that all the Mexicans could come in, and that was them shooting that thing up into space to allow all the AIs in? And then Soji choosing to turn it off was her saying that, oh, look, if we allow lots of immigrants from Mexico, they're going to choose
that would be
to allow open borders.
That would be hilarious, but that's not. It's quite the opposite.
Because that's what the only thing I can make of it. If this was supposed to mirror our immigration crisis, that's all I could make it out to be.
They're trying to get more fundamental than that. They're not trying to get as specific as the actual policy of letting people into the country, as much as just the idea. Because the way that the Hollywood elitists think is that by calling illegal immigration and calling a person an illegal alien or illegal immigrant means that you're trying to suggest that a particular type of person is illegal. And so in their parallel is to make synths illegal, and therefore doing the same thing that they see the United States government doing with Mexicans. And the answer was, to prevent so I guess somewhere floating out in the atmosphere are super Mexicans that are going to destroy the United States if we don't let the regular Mexicans cross the border.
And Ion, I think that for all practical purposes in Picard, while all androids are synths, not all synths are androids.
Right.
And I think they just referred to androids as synths, just because that's the new word for android, was just to call them synth. Though synth can also mean non-android androids.
Yeah. So Dead Shinzo is saying Mexican Joker, but I think Robert's right. It's actually Mexican Iron Man will show up and kill everybody if we don't let the Mexicans in, according to this show. Third time I asked, do you or don't you count Voyager's Doctor as a synth?
I don't think it matters what Anti-Trigger counts. It matters what Starfleet counts, and
right.
They clearly don't count holograms.
Yeah, they obviously don't count holograms because there were holograms after the ban. We saw multiple examples of what on Rios' ship, Index, etc. And yes, I agree. Synths is a stupid name. That was I don't know why they decided to do that. But, whatever, they're stupid.
No, everybody's going to get along, Desmond. No war. No war. The Romulans are just going to go back to, I don't know.
Yeah, what's the Zot Vash going to do?
Go back to? Where are they going to go to?
Yeah, they're going to go back to their decimated, destroyed region of space and say, oh, yeah, I forgot. We were evacuating, weren't we?
They're going to go back to whatever that planet was with the Kowat Malan, and they're all going to make up. They're going to be like, Rizat Vash and Kowat Malan. Let's all join hands. And you can use all of our ships. We can move you now, since they were all just waiting to fight the synths, but now we don't have to.
Yep. All right, so with that, I am going to wrap it up because I don't know what else to say except that it's over. And
Are you going to give it a number?
not yet. Because here's the thing, I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to do over the next couple of days. I'm not going to post a review in a couple hours like I have been the last couple of weeks. Instead, this weekend, I'm going to lock myself down and do a review of season 1 as a whole. And I'm going to give the season a number. I don't know what that number is going to be yet. But I think that really this is one super movie if you look at the, the general construction of it. And so, I mean, if I had to ballpark it, I'd say this episode probably, after our discussion, went down a couple of notches. I'll say a 4. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say I came in with a 5, but I think 4.5 probably.
Yeah.
Just to emphasize that it was the lower half of.
Yeah, it's definitely on the lower end of the spectrum not because of the execution of like Picard himself, but really because of all the massive plot holes that they created with this episode.
Though for me, it is better than the last 2 episodes.
I'd have to. What did I give last week's? I'm trying to remember.
Last week's you liked. You gave it a decent score. I don't.
Oh, yeah, I think I gave last week's like maybe a 5.5 or a 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely. I don't think it was the worst episode. I still think that was episode 8 or 7 or 8, one of those two. But it was. Unfortunately, while they got elements of the landing right, they didn't nail it like they really needed to.
What would you ballpark it if it wasn't Star Trek branded?
The problem is it is. I'm not going to try to do that because it is Star Trek. And so
that was Keenan Cates who asked that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and that's the thing. I know that like Bird did that a couple of times with some of his reviews. I'm not saying, oh, it'd be good if it wasn't Star Trek, because it is Star Trek. And so if it wasn't Star Trek, then I'd say it's a ripoff of Star Trek, because we had Starfleet ships that looked like Starfleet ships facing off against Romulans with Jean-Luc Picard in the middle of it and Borg. This was Star Trek. And so you can't separate. In fact, I will say this, and this is a compliment to this episode. This is probably the first episode in the series that you can't just say, if you give it a different label, it might work better, because this looked like Star Trek. You had Borg, you had Federation ships, you had Romulans, you had all, Sunian androids. This looked like Star Trek through and through. It just didn't quite work. What do you think, Bird?
I think I'm falling asleep.
All right, Bird's falling asleep. Ozzy, I think the Starfleet ship's not the worst, not the best. I think the design was interesting, and I didn't hate them. I would like to see more explored with them, but we're probably never going to see those ships again. Anyway, guys, so with that, Bird of Prey's asleep. Take care. Kapla. Joel on tree. Huh?
Kapla all.
And so... Well, we still got Discovery Season 3 to look forward to. Woohoo!
Soon.
Making your way with the nerds today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from hating JJ sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to just get laid? Sometimes you wanna go where all the Trekkies know your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be in a galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Turds of a feather flock together, that's what we believe. We know a place that's got you covered, a place to get relief. Wouldn't you like to say me Prue? Sometimes you wanna go where Turner Steadies know your name, and old Kurogan's hard to blame. You wanna be where you can see Kuroga go up in flames. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!